Hello all, welcome to this fourth maths lesson of the week. Following on from your revision of fractions, we are going to revise percentages. I'm going to strip it right back to its basics. So we're going to revise everything we've learned in this topic about percentages and make sure that we have all of the key understanding and the key formulas for success in this topic. So here we are, percentages revision. Let's start then from the beginning, what we learned all the way back in that first percentages lesson. What is a percentage? Well, a percentage is a way of representing an amount or a fraction of a group. Percent means out of 100. You also need to really familiarize yourself with what that percent sign looks like. Back to this middle one, percent means out of 100. So when we are talking about 6% of something, we mean 6 out of every 100. Sometimes we might have groups that are greater or less than 100, and we'll get to that again later. Here is challenge 1. This is going to be one of those lessons again where I would encourage you to watch the challenge 1 part of the video, pause it, go over to your independent task and complete challenge 1. Challenge 1 is asking you to find the percentage equivalents to these fractions. We're going to go over them now. So some of you might like to do this at the end because you already know them and you want to test that you've remembered them. Some of you, if you are struggling to remember them, that's absolutely fine. You can do them step by step as we do them on the video. So here are some of the common fraction percentage equivalents. Let's start with 1. 1 is 1 whole, isn't it? We know as a fraction, 1 would be any fraction where the numerator and denominator are the same. So we are talking about all of our group, all of it. So which percentage in the right-hand column is all of our group, is everything? Well done if you were able to identify that it is 100%. It's the full set. So that similarity between 1 as a fraction and 100% as a percentage is really key to our understanding of percentages. Let's then go on to a half. A half is when we have taken the number 1 and split it into 2 equal parts. So we want to do the same for our 100%. If I have 100% and I split it into 2 equal parts, how many percent have I got in each of those equal parts? Well done. If you were able to identify, it's this one, it's 50%, isn't it? It's half of the 100% because 50 is half of 100 and the fraction 1/2 is half of 1 whole. Okay, so let's move on to a quarter then. I'll give you some time to have a think about this one. Well done if you were able to identify. And it's 25%. It's half again, isn't it? And if you think 1/4 is 1 whole divided into 4 equal parts, and 25 is 1/4 of 100, isn't it? 25 plus 25 plus 25 plus 25 equals 100. So that's the relationship there. Carrying on along the same plane, we have 1/10. So we're looking for 1/10 of a whole. Remember, our whole in percentages is 100%. So it would be this one here. So 1/10 is equivalent to 10% because we have taken our whole and we've divided it into 10 equal parts. And of course, we know that if we take 100 and divide it into 10 equal parts, 100 divided by 10, that will give us the answer 10%. Okay, one of the few tricky ones on this page, 3/4. 3/4, we need to match up to 75%. Now, the reason that we want to do that is if we know that we have taken our whole, we've divided it into 4 equal parts, but we are selecting 3 of those equal parts. So when we took 100 and divided it into 4 equal parts, finding 1/4 of it, we knew that each of those equal parts was 25%. I want to do 3 times that 25%, which is 75%. Last but not least then, by process of elimination, 1/100th will be 1%. But just in case you are wondering why that is, it is of course because we have taken our whole, which is 100%, divided it into 100 equal parts. 100 divided by 100, or any number divided by itself, is equal to 1. Some of you might also be starting to recognize the similarities between these and the decimals. So 0.25 is 1/4 as well, isn't it? And what's the relationship? So let me change my pen color. What is 3/4 as a percentage? We know it's 0.75. What is 1 as a decimal? 1/100th is 1%, and it's 0.01 as a decimal. And a half is 50% as a percentage, and 0.5 as a decimal. 1 whole is 100%, and it's 1 as a decimal, 1 with nothing after the decimal point. And my last one here is 1/10, which is 0.1. And I could even put a place value holder in there. I can't because it's not letting me type right in the corner, but you might be able to start to see some of those relationships there. 25%, 1/4, 0.25, 3/4, 75%, 0.75, 1/100th, 1%, 0.01, and so on. Okay, this is the time for you to pause your video now and to go away and do challenge 1, please. Okay. Challenge 2 is asking us to use what we learn in challenge 1. It is asking us to find percentages of things when those percentages are the common fraction percentages that we know. So once you really need to make sure that you have got all of these answers correctly on your worksheet in order to move on to challenge 2. Challenge 2 is going to be asking us to use those fraction percentage equivalents. Let's have a look at challenge 2. Challenge 2 is asking us to find the percentage of a whole number. So 50% of 200, or 25% of 400, and so on and so on. What this question is asking you to do is to recognize, okay, I know that 50% is the same as a half. I know that from this previous slide. What this question is asking me to do is find half of 200. Well, what is half of 200? You should be able to work out mentally. That answer is 100. Of course, if you can't work that out mentally, to find a half of something, you need to divide it by 2. So what you need to do is apply the fraction percentage equivalent to the question. So 25% of 400 is actually asking us to find 1/4 of 400, or 400 divided by 4. Finding 10% of 60, it's actually asking me to find 1/10 of 60. So I need to divide 60 by 10. I will not give you the answers for question 4 and 5. Question 5 is a bit of a challenge one. So don't worry if you get a little bit stuck on it, and well done if you do manage to do that one well. Please pause the video now and have a go at challenge 2. Welcome back, and welcome to the last bit of this video, which is challenge 3. Challenge 3 is all about using that step-by-step, that 2-step guide we spoke about, in order to find any percentage of something. So when we have a percentage such as 50%, 25%, 10%, we need to use our fraction knowledge. That's why we need to be able to identify those in the question. But sometimes we are going to get a percentage question, and it's not going to be one of those common fraction percentage equivalents. Therefore, we need to follow the two-step guide. And remember, the two-step guide is number one, you divide the whole number by 100 in order to find 1% of that number, and then you multiply that answer by the percentage in the question. So let's have a go at one of those together. We might be asked to find 11% of 200. Okay, well, I know that 11% is not one of my common fraction percentage equivalents. I know that 10% is and 1% is. Maybe I would want to work out those two and add them together. That is one way that you could do it, but I think this would be much easier especially because in our question, our number is a multiple of 100, to follow the two-step guide. So step one, divide the whole number by 100. So 200 divided by 100 is equal to 2. Now we know that from our arithmetic this and last week, working with place value. So that was step one. Now we need to move on to step two. Step two, multiply that answer, so 2 multiplied by the percentage in the question. Percentage in the question was 11%. So 2 multiplied by 11 is equal to 22. Note that my answer is 22, not 22%. I'm finding a percentage of a whole number. So my answer is just going to be a whole number, not a percentage. Let's have one more go at using the step-by-step guide to answer these questions. So let's say I was asked to find 8% of 640. Okay, so this time I'm going to do this. Step one is divide the whole number by 100. So the whole number 640 divided by 100, which is equal to 6.4. Now I need to do 6.4 multiplied by the percentage from the question, which was 8. Now, as we spoke about earlier in this unit, you are not expected to be able to do these questions either mentally or using a written method just yet. So if you are dealing with decimal numbers in this unit for these questions, you should feel free to use a calculator, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to find my calculator. I'm going to do 6.4 multiplied by 8 is equal to, now I can see my answer is 51.2. That's the answer to the question, just like that. Let's have a look at challenge 3 together then. Challenge 3 is asking you to find percentages of these numbers. For some of them, I would suggest, especially question 1, you should be able to do that mentally. For question 2, 3, 4, and 5, you should be able to do it with a written method using the column method. However, because that isn't the specific skill that we're testing at the moment, for questions 2, 3, 4, and 5, if you do need to use a calculator, just like I showed you here, it's absolutely fine. So those are your 3 challenges. This is the last bit of revision before we move on to our assessment. So I've kept these tasks and videos quite short this week. Please, before you move on to the assessment task, task 5, take time to do any revision either from this week or from the beginning of the unit. Over to you.